Hello, Forever Family. My name is Shan. I'm a recovery pastor, and we are in a video series. This series is called The 7 Stages of Loving Someone in Addiction. So we have an intro. We have a part 1 or stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and now we're up to stage 4. So real quick recap. Had someone send a message that said, hey, how about talking about the loved one? The one that is loving someone in addiction. So I posted on Facebook, you posted replies and sent me comments and texts and emails, and this video is stage 4. I've broken down your responses into 7 stages. Stage 4 is called numb and fearful. So let's do a quick recap. Stage 1 is shell shock. Stage 2 is clinging to hope. Stage 3 is enabling and rage. And now we're up to stage 4, which is numb and fearful. So in this stage, we've previously looked at accepting that our loved one is in active addiction. We have sorted through the valleys of the lows, and sometimes it feels like we're not going to see a mountaintop for a very long time. We've come to the point where the enabler is at battle with the one that's trying to do tough love. So the family dynamic starts breaking down. Now, this journey that has absolutely beaten you down physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially, it feels like you're just in this never-ending bad dream. Nothing shocks you anymore. You expect that things will only get worse. You have probably been attacked physically, mentally, and emotionally by your loved one that's in active addiction. You have probably been to the jail more times than you ever imagined to visit your loved one. And for some people replied that actually going to the jail to visit their loved one actually brought a sense of relief. As crazy as that sounds, they're relieved because they now know where their loved one is at. They know their loved one will get food, will have a place to sleep, and for a brief moment in time, they can actually close their eyes and try to rest themselves and not be fearful of the next phone call that could be that your loved one has passed, or waking up to a knock on the door where a state trooper is standing there and needs to talk to you. So for the codependent / enabler, this stage can usher in depression. It can usher in a lack of self-care. It can also usher in compassion fatigue. If you haven't experienced any of those yet, not saying that you will experience any or all of them, but based on a response that I received, this is what was predominantly affecting people that are loving someone in active addiction. So you've been on high alert for several months, maybe even years. Your body is exhausted. You don't even have a sleep schedule anymore. You don't have a moment of quiet because you've been through the point where misery is just this overwhelming silence, to the point silence is deafening. So you try to stay busy because you don't want to be in the quiet. You don't want to give your mind time to wonder and to think. And you end up being consumed with so many emotions that continue to plague, such as fear, stress, rage, shame, guilt, and misery. Your mind is racing because you have literally watched your loved one become consumed by sadness and self-destruction. You see their life is spinning out of control and you don't know what you can do to help anymore. You cannot fight their demons for them, and it breaks your heart to see them begging you and you have to tell them no. But you've come to a point where the fear is so great, but yet all the emotions are coming at you so fast internally together that you're numb. I literally had someone respond to me saying, I was so overwhelmed by all my emotions that I was feeling that I could not sort them out. And because they were all rushing me at once, I couldn't identify with one, and I found myself feeling numb. You know, you can wish, how am I going to describe this? Sometimes you wish that you could just look your loved one in the face, knowing that this is a prison of addiction. It's like a jail cell. But you wish that you could just reach in there, find your loved one, and pull them out of that bondage. You may even find yourself sitting there and mentally sifting through all the lies, wondering, was there any ounce of truth? Was there any red flag I should have seen? Was there any warning I should have seen? And the roller coaster of emotions just gets so overwhelming because you sit there and go through all the broken promises that your loved one has told you. Especially for a child who has had a parent that was in active addiction. Those broken promises can haunt you from now on. You will have trust issues, not saying definite trust issues, but you can have trust issues with anyone and everyone, with any situation and every situation. You know, for a loved one, especially if you're a child of an addicted parent, you have to go through the mental roller coaster of knowing that your parent chose the drugs over you. Naturally, that parent, if they were not in active addiction, would have never done that. It's the addiction. You have to know that life's never going to be the same. Some people sent me messages that they wish they could go back to a certain time period and just relive that one time period. But they know their lives will absolutely never be the same. Even once their loved one was in recovery and was doing successful, they know their life will never go back to the way it was before. You may even be sitting there feeling like you're absolutely powerless. You're numb, but you're powerless. And you don't care. You just can't be consumed by this anymore. It's just too much. You may even sit and cry because you just miss the hugs. You just wish one more time you could hug that loved one and not have to deal with the addiction side. That's the one that broke my heart. The message that I got of, if I could just have one more hug from the person that's not in addiction, just one more hug, I would cherish it for a lifetime. That one got me. You know, all of this can lead up to compassion fatigue. And this is where you've been caring for someone else for so long that you've not been able to care for yourself. It's a set of symptoms. It's not like it's a disease or anything like that. It is also considered second trauma. Most of the time you see this in like first responders when they're constantly going up to car wrecks or things like that, and they're constantly seeing the hurt and the agony and everything going on. Sometimes those images are burned into their minds and they have a breakdown. It's called secondhand trauma. They didn't go through the car wreck, but the images of seeing the car wreck is now burned into their brain and also into their hearts. And so they start taking on that emotional baggage. So when you take on the emotional burdens of others until you literally feel like you're going to be crushed under those burdens and those emotions, we start feeling the effects in our own bodies, in our own mind, in our own thoughts. So the emotional symptoms, including but not limited to this, may be, and this is talking about compassion fatigue, may be feeling overwhelmed by the suffering of others, feeling helpless about someone else's situation, feeling sadness and anger and depression and anxiety constantly, and there's no source that's triggered it. You just all of a sudden you're overwhelmed by one of those emotions, feeling numb and happy and joyful times when people are laughing and cutting up, but you're numb. Like you just can't register the happiness anymore. You have a reduced amount of empathy for people and situations. You become oversensitive or hypersensitive to stories you hear. Like if someone's just talking about how they got a paper cut, they're talking about a paper cut, but in your mind, the images are of the car wrecks you've seen, of the loved one that just is a shell of a person, and you are so overwhelmed that you are reduced to just sobbing tears. And everybody's kind of looking at you like, it's just a paper cut, it's fine. But they don't know what you're dealing with internally. It's called compassion fatigue. And also another emotional symptom of compassion fatigue is limited tolerance to change. Don't rock my world anymore. My scale of being able to handle change is done. I can't do this anymore because our loved one in addiction has brought so much change into our life so fast that we can't process it anymore. So now any change is not going to do. We're not going to have any of it. Some of the cognitive symptoms, including but not limited to, are constantly thinking about survivors of trauma. If you see things on the news, you just can't get them out of your mind. What are they going to do? Where are they going to go? Do I need to reach out and help them? That's part of the symptoms of compassion fatigue. A lot of self-blame. Again, the woulda, coulda, shouldas will destroy you. Changing your own belief about how your future life can go, or the meaning of your future life, if it's always going to be in a negative perspective, that's a sign of compassion fatigue. And if you have no desire whatsoever to make any decisions, especially if you were the one in the beginning that was like, okay, here's our options, somebody decide, and then you end up making the decisions. Now you're like, I don't care. I don't even want the burden of making decisions. That's compassion fatigue. Some of the physical symptoms of compassion fatigue include, but not limited to, constant nausea, dizziness, headaches, difficulty sleeping, nightmares. I've even had people tell me they were having nightmares during the day, like daydreams, but they were nightmares, night terrors. And all of a sudden they jump and they turn because in their mind there was something coming at them. More physical symptoms include tension and agitation. Some of the behavioral changes, these can be very drastic. You may all of a sudden become more comfortable self-isolating. You may absolutely withdraw from every conversation or even physically being present anywhere around people. You develop poor coping skills. Believe it or not, some loved ones of those in addiction, when they hit the level of compassion fatigue, they will self-medicate because they just can't handle it anymore. Your relationships will constantly be in conflict. You'll be less effective at work. You might even quit work. Your negative thoughts, your worries, and your stress will consume you. Every single day, you'll start forgetting birthdays, anniversaries, important dates, appointments. Some people actually have no desire whatsoever to look forward to tomorrow. So let me describe compassion fatigue like this. So you're a marathon runner and you've signed up for this marathon. This is great and wonderful. You're excited. And along the way, there are rehydration stations. So you can get some water so you keep going. And you start off the marathon and you come to the first rehydration station. You're like, I'm good. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to get any water here. Well, that's kind of like passing through stage 1 of this video series and not putting things into perspective. You keep going and you come up to the second rehydration station and you're like, no, I'm good. I don't need water. I'm good. I'm going to keep running this race. Well, that's like going through stage 2 of this video series and not putting things in perspective or reaching out for help. You come up to the third rehydration station. You're like, no, seriously, I'm good. I'm really doing great. I'm so proud of myself. I'm going to keep running this race. And you go on past it without rehydrating. You're not getting the water. You're not taking in what you need to survive. And that's like going through stage 3 of this video series and not putting into perspective, not reaching out for help, and not seeing your situation for what it truly is. Now you're coming into stage 4, and you've been running this marathon, and you feel like you're doing so great, and all of a sudden you're like, probably gonna stop and get some water at that next station. I'm getting a little thirsty. I think I need to, at least slow down my pace a little bit. But you look around and there's no water station, and as you look around, there's no people. You're not even on course anymore. You have ran so far off course because you've been consumed by other things that you've kind of ran out into the desert. There's no one around. You don't know how to get back. There's no sign of civilization anywhere. So you sit down and you give up and you just wait. Maybe something will come along, maybe it won't. Either way, it doesn't matter. That's compassion fatigue. We run the race, but we don't take time at the rehydration stations. We don't take time to take care of our needs so that we can keep running the race. And then we find ourselves in compassion fatigue. I close every one of these videos the same way. And I'm hoping that somewhere along the way, someone that's watching them will realize, hey, she's talking about what I'm dealing with. I want you to know it's never too late to ask for help. If you are in active addiction, it is not too late to ask for help. There are many great facilities. I have seen many success stories out of many facilities, and I would love to get you in contact with them. If you're the loved one of someone in addiction, it's okay for you to ask for help. It's okay for you to have somebody to talk to. It's okay for you to have somebody help you navigate through these valleys, because you've got wounds now as a result of this addiction. And you deserve recovery too. You deserve healing also. If anything has really hit home with you, and you know someone that needs to watch these videos, please share them. If you're not sure where to find one of the videos, you can always go to our YouTube channel. Just search Recovery Pastor. All of our videos are archived there. Share those videos. Encourage people to watch them. Maybe the video will open the door to a hard conversation. Maybe it'll open the door to a conversation that you don't even know how to start yet. But regardless, God did not create any of us to be consumed by addiction, to be abused, or anything like that. So if you haven't watched them yet, go back and watch the videos that are prior to this one. They're all called the 7 stages of loving someone in addiction. There's an intro video, there's a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and now this is stage 4, and it's titled Numb and Fearful. I look forward to your comments, your messages. My email will be in the description. So until next time, much agape, everybody.